Hello, and welcome to the next episode of It's Your Time to Shine, a podcast about being a mom in a modern world. My name is Juspreet, and with me is my friend Lisa Vora.
Hi, I missed you last week and the week before.
I know, I miss you too. How's it going?
I'm still here, and I heard you guys, and you guys were awesome, you and Rena. I loved the podcast. Loved it.
Oh man, I know. I really wish we could have been there together for that one. I had such a great time talking to her, and as you and our listeners probably heard, it was such a great, just open conversation.
It was, and like, you know how she had said, oh my God, I talked to you guys. I was like, oh my God, I'm talking to you guys.
Oh, that's so awesome.
We really need to be together in one room, the three of us.
Yeah, what a great compliment too, right? For one of your listeners to tell you that they're like reacting and responding.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, great job. But I am happy to be back, everyone. I wasn't fired. I was not fired.
What? What do you mean about fired? There's no way we could do that. You can't fire the boss. Hey, I cannot wait to tell you about something else that happened in California, which was I got to speak at this women's leadership retreat, and it was primarily young women, like between the ages of, I'd say like 16, 17, seniors in high school all the way up to grad school age.
Seniors in high school didn't make you nervous?
Everyone makes me nervous. What are you talking about? But what I'll say is like, it was such a great experience for me because here I was supposed to be like presenting and facilitating an empowerment topic for them. And I ended up getting so much out of it. So the title of my little session was called Your Story Matters. And you and our listeners know I'm like such a big proponent of understanding and getting to know what your story is, being able to articulate it, and really like understanding what makes up our identity and how our different experiences make us uniquely us, right? And so,
Yeah.
Well, you and I talk about that all the time, and it's such a big part of who we are as parents and who we are in the workplace and who we are as like wives and husbands and sisters. And so the primary goal was to just talk about how you get to know yourself and how you can share yourself fully with others.
Oh, that's so interesting. And you were giving a talk about how to do that, or workshops?
Yeah, so basically it was like a conversational style workshop where I introduced myself a little bit and kind of tried to give them like a compelling reason that understanding their story is important. And then I pivoted it into some directed exercises to kind of help them, because it is hard to talk about yourself. And especially as women, we are like conditioned to always take the focus off us, right? Don't take credit for work that we do. Don't take credit for our accomplishments. Always say like, oh, it's the team, not me. Or, oh, it's the kids, they're great, not me.
Right. You find external attribution.
Yeah, exactly. Well, here, do you want me to just share a little bit with you?
Yeah. I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so I basically started out by saying, like I asked the question, why is our story important? And not surprisingly, no one answered that question. And so I started out by saying like, look at me. I'm a Punjabi American Sikh woman, and I have 3 kids. I work as a digital experience owner, which means I study human behavior and design digital apps. And along the way, I've learned that humans bring their whole selves with them in every experience in life. So if we're careless spenders in a store, then we're careless spenders online. And if we're impatient in real life, then we're impatient when we're online. So all this just to say that who we are and how we've lived is really important. So like take me, for example. I was born in Maryland in December of 1975, and I'm 42 years old. But my story didn't start there. My story began in 1956. My mom was 9 or 10 years old, and my mom's eldest sister-in-law was pregnant. And as is the Punjabi tradition, she was spending her last few weeks of pregnancy at her mom's house. The tradition is that the first child born by a woman is born at her home. And so perhaps you've heard that. There's a common Punjabi saying that like, Pehla bacha nanke da. So my grandmother, or my Nani ji, and my mom would write letters to her to come home and have the baby there. They were so excited because this is the first grandchild in the family. And so eventually she came back. And on the day that she went into labor, the village dai, or midwife, came to help. There were no doctors, there was no hospitals, and this woman had no formal education. And when it was time, My mommy screamed as she pushed her baby into the world. She pushed and screamed and pushed. And my mom, who was about 9 years old, kept asking, Babi, why are you crying if the baby is out? The midwife handed her to my grandmother, and my grandmother looked at the baby and said, I want to hold my grandson a little longer. And she held him for 4 hours because the baby was stillborn and they didn't know why.
Oh my God.
But my grandmother held him and she whispered to him whatever comforts a poor, uneducated Punjabi woman can whisper to a baby that never took a breath of air. And after a few hours, my grandmother and her 2 sister-in-laws walked 2 miles out of the village to a spot beneath a tree and buried the baby still swaddled in the cotton cloth.
Oh my God.
The baby didn't have a name, and so he didn't have a funeral. And that's how my story began. My story begins with resilience, with a sisterhood solidified with pain. My story begins with acceptance and with perseverance.
And the impact it left on your mom. That moment had to have traveled with her the rest of her life, which affects you.
Yeah, and you know, it's like my mom has told me so many stories.
Can I just tell you, that was amazing. I mean, I have goosebumps. It was not just well written, your cadence, pauses, and just the story in itself.
So we talked about how things that happen in our history with our ancestors, with our parents, you know, it changes their life. Obviously, this story had a profound impact on my grandmother. It had a profound impact on my mom as she learned like how women navigate pain and how they rely on each other. And I feel like I see that in myself as well, whereas sometimes you hear from women, you know, they don't want to rely on one another. They feel like they have to do it all. I very much look at my childhood and I see how my mom helped other women, how other women helped my mom, and it was okay. You know, it was quiet.
Sisterhood.
It was humble. It was modest. But it very much was a presence of, we're going to help each other and we'll do it quietly. We're not doing it for the limelight. And so I know that that's had an effect on me. So we talked about that, and we talked about how to like dig into your story and to kind of think about experiences you've had and pause and give those experiences time.
Right.
You know, so what kind of insights can we get from them? And then we went through some exercises, which were really fun, you know, like how do you get to know yourself and what kind of things do you share about yourself? And
Well, I want to know, how do I get to know myself? I want to know the exercises.
you start out by asking some questions, you know, and they can be super easy. Like you start with easy things like how do you spend your day? And, you know, what's your traditions or cultures or beliefs that you really love and are important to you as part of your life? And then you start to think about like, what do you value? What are your values? What is your legacy? Like something enduring that you will want to be here long after you're gone.
What's your favorite wine?
Whatever it is, you know, whatever is important to you.
I was at the grocery store with Alyssa a few days ago. And we got to the wine section. Mommy's favorite place, wine. She like yells.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. So I told them that I wanted them to think about 4 things: their culture, their principles, their values, and their legacy. And I said, okay, well, maybe that's too hard. And let me make it easier for you. And so then I said, think about your life. You know, what's the best or most memorable present you've ever been given? And so it could be something like a favorite toy as a child. It could be a blanket. It could be something they recently got. So those things are really heavy. And so what I did was I asked them to answer some really simple questions. So why don't I ask you, and you can answer them.
Oh, cool. This will be fun.
Okay. So first, as you think about your life, what is the best or most memorable present you've ever been given?
So I'm supposed to answer that or just think about it?
Yeah, no, answer it.
Can I get a 2-minute timer?
First answer. Best present you've ever been given.
All right. I think if I had to answer, only because it came across me this morning, is blanket that my grandmother gave me. And I still have it. And I was thinking about it this morning, how I still have it after all these years. And then I was thinking about how there's probably a lot of dust on this and I need to find a way to clean it. But anyway, that's the most memorable gift I've gotten.
I like that. I think you should also steam clean it. Put it on the steam setting in your dryer. Not that you were asking. The next question is, what is your favorite place in the world?
What is my favorite place in the world?
Yeah, and why?
Because it's the place where I can truly just sit and just appreciate it. I have this amazing room. It's very calm, great view, and I really can just sit down, breathe, and say thank you. And I know I'm being kind of like cheesy here, but I actually really like it for that reason. Obviously, there's another reason too. But
That's great. So see how you just think about two questions like that, and it starts to we start to get more insight into you. Like you like the space, you like gratitude and meditating and being able to have that conversation with yourself.
yes, one more. This is fun.
Okay, what makes you super happy?
Why'd I ask for one more? Not the third question. I'm just kidding. What makes me happy is to be with my family. Oh my God, cliche alert.
You're so funny. So basically, I gave them some questions like that, and then I asked them to answer some. I had them answer a couple of other questions, and then just to make it a little fun, do you remember what a fortune teller is from like 3rd or 4th grade?
Yeah. Those little things you made with the paper. I make them all the time, even now.
So basically, I had them make fortune tellers. I asked them 8 questions, and I had them make their own fortune tellers and then walk up to someone else, and they did the fortune teller on each other. And it would be like, my favorite gift is, and then they open it and they read the answer, and then they have a conversation about it. So it's kind of like they're fun, corny questions.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to connect with someone that you don't know, it gives them the opportunity to start the conversation and get to know each other, and also get to know themselves a little bit better too.
And I love what you're doing about conversation. I'm actually reading another book about conversation and how we don't know how to have them anymore. I love that you're doing something to help these young people actually talk to one another.
Yeah, I think it makes a huge difference, and we need practice. Like, I think young people don't have practice.
You do need practice. You do. You have to exercise that part of your brain. If it's dormant, you're not going to be natural at it.
Right. Exactly. So throughout the weekend, I had them like do the little fortune teller thing, and then, I asked them some questions that they could meditate on or think about. It's hard to do that in a group setting, so I just gave them questions, and, so I asked them things like, think about your mind. How does your mind work? What makes your spirit happy? What makes our bodies thrive? And we kind of followed that theme of those 3 things, which are 3 areas that like I'm really trying to focus and balance in my life, is like mind, body, and spirit. And and then we had some dialogue about that and why taking self-care is really important. And then we started talking about how we can really look after ourselves and impact the idea of creating a legacy, because a legacy is that thing that's enduring, that lasts longer than you or I individually would last, right? And many people think that, oh, well, my work is my legacy, or my children are my legacy. But what I see in young people today is they're going to impact the world and the universe in a very different way than you and I in our generation ever will have. I really get the sense that they're just motivated by different things. Their propensity to do good is very, very high. They think in totally different ways. They don't think buying a car and buying a house is success. And so then we talked about generational change and how do we make changes over a generation. And I did this little exercise called like the 200-year present. And have you heard of this one?
The 200-year present? Nope.
It was something new that I had heard about recently from from a study of social activities perspective. And so
I missed the study. How dare I miss a study?
I know. It's like they don't even publish them very big. The print is so small. How are we supposed to read this stuff?
Yeah, I'm going to have to catch up on DSM-5 now. I didn't know it was 5 until like last year. I thought it was still 4, and I was like, God, I'm old.
I think they change that every 100 years, so I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. So the idea of the 200-year present is like if you think of the oldest person that ever held you, and maybe it's like a grandparent or something. For me, it was a grandparent that was born in the early 1900s. And then think about at the end of my life, the youngest person I'll ever hold, and then how long that person will live. And so it's basically the idea that between the oldest person that touches your life and the youngest person that touches your life, you will have touched basically 200 years.
Right. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, and it's kind of a cool way to look at it.
That would make a good movie.
Oh, that would be awesome. You should do that. You should work on that. Because it'd be such a great story, right?
Yeah, it would. It really would. I was just thinking about my grandfather, and he's the oldest person that's ever held me, and how he was a freedom fighter. So I'm like, wow, that's the beginning from my side.
Right. That's how your story starts. Tell me more about him.
My grandfather, he was a
Yeah.
freedom fighter, fought alongside with Gandhi to bring down the British government. He went to jail several times. He was the leader in his village. So yeah, that's how much I know about him.
Was this your mom's dad or your dad's dad?
My dad's dad. I'm always very proud of the fact that I have someone like him, my grandfather, in my family. It saddens me that I never got to know him. He died about a year after I was born. But I carry the Vora name very proudly. And because of that, I never even changed my last name, actually, because I just love being a Vora.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yeah, because of just you know how I feel. You know how I feel about just freedom and government oppression and things like
Yeah.
that. And that's something that's just like in me, like it's part of my soul. And
Yeah.
as you were talking right now, I was like, wow, I was touched by someone who made a difference, and that's awesome. And I'm going to start crying.
No, but the thing is like, I think that's wonderful. And think about like how empowering it is as a young woman to have that legacy. Like that's
Yeah.
a gift. And I know your dad so well, and I know that aspect of justice, like he definitely got it from his dad, and then he retained it because sometimes those things fall away. Like what I got from my mom, the strength that I got from my mom that she got from her mom, she kept it. She didn't turn away from it. And so she was able to give that to me and to my brother and my sister, and then hopefully I'll give it to my kids. And that's the definition of a legacy. So we can see
Yeah.
my grandmother's legacy alive and well today. We can see your grandfather's legacy alive and well. And because you have such a spirit of justice about you, like justice and compassion are so important to you. And I've seen you fight for things.
You know what? I know you did something great for those kids, because right now, after this talk, I feel more rooted.
Oh, and it doesn't have to stop here. You can continue to just think about it.
Oh, no. I just wanted to stop here. No. I'm done. After this, no, don't make me keep going. No homework.
You know what? I told the kids, I gave them these journals, and I was like, hey, whenever you have time, just think about your life and write down little things. And
Yeah.
it was cute because some of them did it, and they came to me later. So
Aw.
after my session was done, I was invited to stay and participate in other activities
Yeah.
with them. Like, so, I had lunch with them, and we did a couple of other things as well. And so it was really nice. Some of them came up to me and said, my interpretation was like, for an old person, I really enjoyed your talk. And I was like, well, thank you. And
That's hilarious.
well, you take the compliments where you can get them, right? I'm not going to be too picky. But this idea of like generational impact and generational change, I have been thinking about it so much because these young women were super inspiring. I mean, they were bold, they were strong, they knew who they were. And I wasn't like that, I don't think, when I was a kid. Like I was, I don't know, like I felt like, I wanted to fit in a little bit. I didn't make as much noise, and just being around these strong young women was super inspiring. And I've been thinking about change, and I've been thinking about learning about the world.
Yeah.
And one of the things one of the thoughts that I've had, so I want to talk to you a little bit about this as well, is how do we maintain relationships across the generations? Like, I think it's important to have a friend that's like 20 years older than you and 20 years younger than you.
I'm thinking if I do, because that's what connects you to those generations. I don't know. Sometimes we tend to get stuck in our own little bubbles. So I can see why relationships like that can make you think outside of that protective, insulated bubble that you're in. So because as you're talking, I'm like, do I? And I so do. 20 years older and 20 years younger. High five to me.
Yeah. Isn't that awesome? And a lot of times I'll say like the 20 years younger, which 20 years is a lot,
Yeah.
at our age, even 10 years is like, there's a generational change.
20 years is 21. Someone 20 years younger than me can drink legally? That's perspective. Oh my
That
God.
is perspective.
Wow.
And so, like, the 20 years younger, you're like, okay, they can tell you what's hip and what's happening, these days. But 20 years older, well, gosh, there's so much to learn from someone who's like 20 years older.
We need both perspectives. There's so much to learn both ways.
Yeah.
There really is. I mean,
Yeah.
from everyone, every person in our lives. But I see what you're saying with having that age diversity.
Yeah, I think it's really important to, like, not just be friends with them, but tell them, I want to be friends with you. I want to get to know you. I want to share my experience with you, and I want to get your experiences. Because if we are like that thoughtful about cultivating relationships, just imagine what good could come of it.
I agree with you. I think that the way a conversation goes would imply that. Do you know what I mean? So if I meet someone a lot older and I show interest and they're talking and I ask questions and I listen, then that tells them that I'm interested, without directly saying it.
Yeah, I think for someone who's older, maybe, but I think when someone's younger, they may not know,
Oh, yeah. When they're younger, it's like they won't even talk to you.
And like you were saying, like there's a generation of kids out there who don't really know how to go deeper with conversations. And I've created at least 3 of them because I'll be on the phone with them and they're calling someone, they want to talk to a friend, and they'll just be like, hey, I had a question for you. And I'm like, how are you? Is it a good time to talk? What are you doing? How about, and I'm like, that, some people call it small talk.
That's bizarre to me.
Yeah. Some people call it small talk, but it's not that small. It's kind of important.
It's like they've taken text conversations into real conversations.
Yes.
So the greeting and stuff is all missing because that's what you would do over text. Though even over text, I'm like, hey, how are you doing? Depending if I haven't talked to you for a while,
Yeah.
But work emails I always start with hope you're having a good day. Just something. I don't know. It's just something. I just have to do that.
Right.
But your kids, I don't know. When Bhavneet and I have had great conversations. I think she's great. I think you're too hard on yourself.
No. Bhavneet's the exception. It's the other 2.
Okay, because we were literally talking about what's happening in our country, government, all this stuff, and I was like, wow, Bhavneet. And this is what when you were saying these young kids are so smart, they're so sure of themselves, I'm like, wow, I was not like Bhavneet. And that makes me proud that you are raising a child to be more sure of herself and her opinion.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to say. It's like, I look at her, yes, she can have a conversation. My younger ones get on FaceTime with my in-laws or my parents, and they're just looking at themselves, making faces, and it's silent. And I'm like, really? How about, what's the weather like? And I've made them cue cards before to be, sarcastic about it. Like, how are you? I'm fine.
That's so funny that you said that because I just said the same. It wasn't the same thing, but it was Dia's 40th birthday a few days ago, and I had Allie just say happy birthday just on video. And I didn't give her cue cards because she cannot read, but I was telling Dia the way she's looking, it's like she's looking at my cue cards. So it's just the same joke. So we're just eye to eye again. That's all.
That's so hilarious. Yeah, I think that would be really cute. Even if I think you should make cue cards for her, even though she can't read.
Well, speaking of cue cards, I know it has nothing to do with the other. Yes, smooth transition, I know. But it's Halloween, and I happen to know it's one of your favorite holidays.
It is one of my favorite holidays, actually. I'm hoping that there's creepy crawly music playing in your house in a couple hours, and lots of cobwebs on the door, and children being frightened while also being showered with candy.
Yeah, you're a Pinterest Halloween mom.
Are you going to leave a bowl of candy that says, please take one?
Yep. My secret's out of the bag. I'm only into Halloween for my child.
You're so funny. You know what my favorite part about Halloween is, honestly, is answering the door and the kids yelling trick or treat and then looking at all their costumes. And sometimes I'm that creepy Punjabi auntie who's like, oh, I love your costume. Oh, that's such a cute idea. To each person, I'm like, I recognize that you put effort into this costume and I want you to know that you're fantastic. And then the kids are like, are you going to give me candy or not?
That's cute, though, that you're so into it. That's really adorable. That's adorable.
Yeah, I love it. It's a universal holiday. I hope there's lots of candy in your future for your daughter's sake. And happy Halloween, and thanks for listening.